Good morning. It is Thursday, time for our weekly sit down with the mayor of the city of Fall River, Mayor Paul Coogan. Mayor, how are you today?
I'm doing fine, Keith. How about you?
I'm doing well. We were saying just before the weather's supposed to be a little warmer the next couple of days, so hopefully people can get outside and get some fresh air. And we're definitely heading in a better direction in terms of weather. I actually want to start with your office and the Department of Health and Human Services yesterday sponsored a town hall meeting with local healthcare professionals to discuss the distribution and the efficacy and concerns about the COVID-19 vaccine. What was your response in terms of how that went? And I guess, are you still hearing some concerns from local residents about, whether they should, take the vaccine or not?
Well, we mostly hear from residents that want the vaccine. We don't hear a lot of people that are concerned about whether they get it or not. Anybody that wants it is always calling here. But we're trying to do some education programs so people know how important it is for them to get the vaccine. Um, as I always said, if we had enough vaccines, then we'd be going door to door right now through neighborhoods to try to make sure we impressed on people how important this is. But we're not going to do that until we have the vaccines in hand, because I'm not going to tell people to come to a site when I don't even have enough to vaccinate them. So it's very important. I thought the doctors and the medical professionals did a great job yesterday explaining it in a calm, orderly manner. And any education we can give people about the vaccines is a positive. We had a little site yesterday over here at the Academy building for about 50 plus people, and we're going to be doing a couple of our high rises today. We're also giving our second shots at Our Lady of Light. So we keep getting them, but we're just not getting the quantity we need for a major push in Fall River.
Let me ask you how difficult has it been to identify some of those hard to find areas? You mentioned the high rises, taking care of our seniors. Is Tess Curran and her department looking at that as well, trying to say, here's some pockets that we want to reach out to and focus on before it gets to the general public?
Well, that's what it is. The state is targeting certain groups that they think are reluctant participants. They want you to bring them into the fold. But at the same time, they want you to follow all the phasing instructions. So if I go into a family's home on Robeson Street, and I say, "Oh, good, we want to make sure you all get a vaccine," I can't really say that because I'm looking for the people that are over 65, have two comorbidities. And when it opens up to the point where I can say, "Okay, bring the whole family here," or "we'll be here," I think it'll be much easier. But as long as we're still trying to get to some of our hard to recruit groups, I don't know how you go in and say, "You stay home and we'll take care of you." It just doesn't make sense right now.
Also this week, you presented your 2021 State of the City address before a joint meeting of the City Council and the School Committee. Obviously, COVID heavy early on in that speech, but you also had the opportunity to talk about some other aspects of things that you've accomplished during the first year in office. Was it good to talk about other projects other than COVID and looking more forward in terms of what will happen based on some of your priorities when the pandemic comes to an end?
Absolutely. I mean, COVID has overwhelmed everybody. Fall River, the state, the federal government. I mean, it was like a mad dash for the longest time. Testing. And now testing is kind of secondary, in third place, whatever you want to call it, while everybody focuses on vaccines. Fall River is really going in a very positive direction right now. I think if people just take a deep breath and just hang on for a little bit longer, get vaccinated, we're going to come out the other side of this, hopefully, a much better city. We just have been on the phone yesterday with the federal government about the Biden bill and its impact on a city like Fall River. We're going to be in a very positive spot, and there's going to be a lot of good things going on, but we just want to make sure before we come out with a big splash about that, we dot all our I's and know exactly what we're talking about.
Now, in terms of the federal money that will be coming the city's way, any more clarity on that in terms of how much the city will get and how it can be spent?
No, we haven't got a final number yet. We've got projections, and as I said, it's somewhere between 60 and 70 million, maybe even a little more. But there are some restrictions on it, and we're trying to find the best way to to use the money, working with our federal delegation. I was on the phone yesterday with Senator Markey's office, and I talked to our new Congressman Jake Auchincloss yesterday. So those are the people we're gonna rely on to help guide us through. We have an excellent financial team in the city here. We may bring in a few people to help us with some of the nuts and bolts, but at the same time, going forward, we want to make sure that we're doing everything right by the book, and we're helping the residents in the city of Fall River the best possible way we can with those funds.
And I know that your partners in government with the city council this week were talking a little bit about it during the finance committee, that there may be opportunities here on a short-term level to not only help foster some projects through, but also maybe provide some tax and other rate relief for the city. Was everything pretty much on the table?
Yeah, everything's on the table, but like some clarity came to the tax relief. They don't want you using it for tax relief. They want you using it as ways to supplement water, sewer, broadband. There's some other things in the bill that we're going to look at, and obviously Fall River has big water and sewer bills, so we're trying to do whatever we can. We're not, like I said, though, I'm just telling people, these are all projections. We're not guaranteeing anything until we get the playbook on how the money has to be spent, and what the timeline is to use it. We're here in the end of 24, but that's not in my hand yet. There's also some additional money going to the county. There's some additional money coming into the state for infrastructure. There's some money in there for restaurants, and obviously we'd love to be able to support our restaurants in Fall River. So we're going to look at everything, but the bill was only passed yesterday. So, I mean, it is $1.9 trillion. We really can't tackle that until we get all the guidance in our hands.
All right, I want to shift gears now to the schools. This week, more clarity came down from the State Department of Elementary and Secondary Education concerning getting students back in person in the classroom. The Commissioner Jeff Riley is recommending that, actually ordering that elementary school students return full-time in person on April 5th. I know the superintendent this week talked about he's working on a plan. Any more details on how that's going to fall for local Fall River students?
I believe we're going to comply with that plan. It's just yesterday a good part of the day was spent on trying to get vaccines for teachers. I'd love to be able to get them all vaccinated before we go back, but at the same time we do want the kids back in school too. We feel they have tremendous gaps in education and instruction, and we're also seeing a little bubble up in some mental health issues for the kids. So we'd like to get them back sooner rather than later, but obviously we have to do it safely. So I think we'll probably try to get as close to the state guidance on that return of K to 5 the beginning of April, and then we'll try to roll the others out shortly thereafter.
Yeah, and the state guidelines are that middle school students should be back toward the end of April. Still no word yet on high school students, and then obviously the plan.
I think high school's following basically the same pattern as middle, I was told.
Yeah, and obviously the plan right now is for the fall school year to be normal, or at least as normal as it can be. Still, 6 months or so away from that. Also, the school committee this week performed its evaluation on the school superintendent, Matthew Malone. Of course, mixed results based on issues that are facing the superintendent. Can you give us a little background on how you evaluated the superintendent's performance?
I would say mixed results is pretty accurate. I didn't put a lot into the evaluation because I was very unsure of what was going to happen with the people on the school committee that were being allowed to hear the issues or the charges that they were alleging the superintendent committed. So I kind of stayed in the background as I was told to do. I mean, we all have strengths and weaknesses, and we all have things that we can do better. Do I think we should be staying on the path we're on right now? I'm not really quite sure of it. But again, let's see how this plays out. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of moving pieces still with the superintendent, and whatever's going to come our way, we'll have to deal with.
And is it important but regardless of how individual school committee members, feel about the situation, that, collectively the group should work as one in the benefit of the students of Fall River, and can that be difficult during times when there's some of these discussions and accusations back and forth.
Right. You have to remember the Fall River public school system is dealing with about 10,000 kids. And those are the priority, not Paul Coogan, not Superintendent Malone, regretfully not anything else, but those students and instruction and what they get coming to our schools. One of the things that came up the other day was, I think it's like 75% of the kids at the Green School are considered high needs. Now, should our focus be on that 75%, or should that focus be on an issue that I think has resolved itself, even if it's only for the end of his contract or for a short time? But we have to focus on the kids. We can't be bogged down with this every meeting. There's got to be a time when we put that to the side. Those four gentlemen, I take that back, the three gentlemen and Miss Larrabee that voted to keep him. I think they made their best vote on what they saw and all the evidence. I have since that vote seen some of the evidence, but I haven't. I try to not talk to them about it because I don't want to be accused of trying to influence people. But at the same time, they made their best vote. It's time to go back to the kids. That's where we belong. We don't belong going down this path for much longer. Whatever happens with the superintendent, he's going to take care of himself. But our focus has got to go back to the children. We just can't keep going like this.
And I guess tangentially, is there a concern that some issues may be held up? The city council has been, very strong in its opposition to the accusations of the superintendent. They've held up a couple of loan orders. Do you feel that could be an issue?
Well, I think the other night you saw they approved the Watson and the baseball field. I moved it along. They seemed much more amenable to the baseball field, but at the same time, those ADA compliant issues that are at Watson are for some of our neediest students. We have to comply with the ADA's disability guidance, and I'm not going to pit a baseball player against a kid in a wheelchair. But let's get real here. We have to take care of all the kids. We don't want to be in a position where we're saying, oh, this project is okay, but that one's not. We have to be able to separate ourselves for the benefit of the children. I know it's frustrating for people, and you get personal and you get angry, and you have an opinion and you want to make it strongly felt by everyone else. But at the same time, this is about kids. We're not talking about adults here. This isn't an over 18 population. Most of all of our students are under 18, and they need our help and our support. And I just think that's what's got to come first. Some of their concerns about the superintendent are valid, but at the same time, I'm not going to put the superintendent ahead of the kids in any way, shape, or form. The kids got to come first, and what's best for them.
One final issue on schools. A number of employees came forward during citizen input time this week to talk to the school committee about their concerns about the MCAS testing. We talked about this in the past. The testing schedule has been shifted to later on this spring. Do you feel that there's any possibility? I know the school committee members have come out as well, showing their concern. Do you see any possibility of this not happening this year, or making more amendments to how MCAS can be administered this year?
Well, absolutely. I had a conversation with the lieutenant governor a couple of days ago, and she was like, "Oh, those are valid points." What always happens with MCAS scores is that they rate the communities by how the students do on the test. Now, I told her, when you look at the communities in Fall River that have the most transient populations, the highest number of at-risk kids, whether it's Fall River, New Bedford, Brockton, Springfield, Worcester, Lawrence, they're going to be somewhere towards the bottom of whatever rating chart you want to do. If we're going to evaluate kids who haven't had a full classroom day of instruction in God knows how long, months and months and months, and then say to them, now we're going to rate your city by how you did on this test. I told her that's patently unfair. If they want to use it as some kind of an assessment tool to see how much of a gap there is in learning, so we can build going forward on our next test or when we get them back in the classroom, that's fine. But if they release all that data out to the public and people decide to rank communities on obviously flawed data, then it's not going to be productive to anyone. We want to go forward now. It's just what I was talking about in the last segment. This is about the kids, not about Paul Coogan and the MCAS test. That MCAS test, whatever you want to call it, it's been here for a while, but it can't be seriously evaluated or used as an evaluation tool in this kind of climate. And the second thing I talked to her about was someone brought up the other night at the meeting, the John and Abigail Adams Scholarship. Our kids get free tuition at a state school based on how they do on the John and Abigail Adams Scholarship they receive for their MCAS scores. What are we going to do there? I mean, those kids have not had the instruction necessary to be advanced or proficient on that test. And I'm like, well, what are you going to do? They have to come up with some kind of a formula where X percent of the class that's in the top tier or whatever, regardless, gets the scholarship, or they're going to have to find another way, because that would just be patently unfair to cities and towns like Fall River.
Yeah. One final thing, we're actually, as you know, we do these interviews on our Facebook page, and someone just asked the question whether parents have the option to opt out of MCAS.
They do. They do have the option to opt out. It was brought up the other night. They can send in a letter to their school, and I believe they'll be accommodated. And again, I'm not a fan of MCAS overall, and I'm really not a fan of it in this climate. I do hope that as the DESC looks at what's going on, they decide that it's like one of the other benchmark assessment tools we use, something to see where kids are along the timeline of education, instead of using it to evaluate schools and districts and what's going on. Right now, it's just totally unfair. I don't want to be in the same any chart that has communities where everybody in the house has Wi-Fi, and we're out looking for hotspots to try to get a kid to log on. It's just not fair. So right now, let's focus on maybe finding out where the kids are and getting them back into regular instruction. That would be my focus.
All right, Mayor, as always, thank you for your time. We'll talk again soon. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Keith. Appreciate it.
All right. Have a great week. I'm Keith Tebow, FRCmedia, and we'll talk to you again very soon. Have a great day.